All right. Maybe if I could get at least a couple of thumbs up, make sure that you guys can hear me. There we go. Okay. I'll take that as a thumbs up. Perfect. Okay. You got to love when you do things like this. You keep getting technical difficulties on different things like that. But man, I appreciate everybody that's on here already. I know we've had a lot of people from the Brokers Open that we had a couple of weeks ago, which we had over 70 people. We had over 60 agents show up. And one of the questions that I kept getting asked was like, man, how did you guys get so many people here? Whenever, I do a Brokers Open, I get like 5 people max showing up. In fact, the agent that was there, Libby, she said that she had thrown a Brokers Open and the max people that showed up was like 3 because of the location of where it was. If you guys were there, it was a pretty unique location, we'll call it. It was out in Sapulpa, but it was kind of like in the middle of nowhere, and parking was a little bit crazy. But to say that we had a great event is an understatement. So I thought, hey, why not put a couple of different uh, tips and tricks of how to be able to elevate your next Brokers Open and how this could help your business. So super thankful that you guys are here. As we're waiting on, it's 12:02, so I mean we have quite a bit of people here, but I'm gonna wait a little bit, about a couple more minutes before people get here. And I am going to show you guys. I feel like a lot of you guys feel like I invite you guys to a lot of stuff, which might be true, but you got to remember that's my job. But this thing, I want to invite. I want to send you guys an invite for an invite that I got. So this is not our event, and it's super last minute because a lot of you guys probably think that I'm very last minute as well. And it's tonight from 4 to 7 p.m. But this could be a very good, not just networking, but a really good way to meet some of the amazing builders that we have here in town. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of cobblestones, and but some of these are ones that are kind of up and coming, and even if they don't build a lot of homes, they build beautiful homes. So if any of you guys are interested, it's tonight from 4 to 7 p.m. If you do the QR code here, it'll tell you where it's at. It looks like it's going to be at 121st and Yale. But if you do the QR code, it will um, send you to Google Maps and give you the direct address there. So, all right. I don't want to take too much of you guys' time. Hopefully, some of you guys are eating lunch already. But if you're not, I want to make sure I don't eat into your entire lunch. So, want to get started here and talk about couple of different things that we could do to um, get more people into your Brokers Opens. Because whenever we do this, guys, um, first of all, it makes your time worth a lot more because I mean, has anybody ever been to a Brokers Open or hosted a Brokers Open that you literally had like maybe like a couple people show up? Anybody been there before? So I've been in the business for since 2018. So however long that's been what, 6, 7 years. And I remember when I first started, like thinking I'm gonna get all this training. And I remember getting sat into my office and I said, what do I need to do? And they're like, just start calling people. And I said, who do I call? And they said, just start calling agents. And I'm like, well, what do I need to talk about? Right. There's seriously no training to it to where I was just kind of thrown out there. But I remember always trying to look and figuring out how can I leverage the current relationships I already have. Well, at the time, I was going to a gym called Sky Fitness down in South Tulsa, and there was this agent that I knew she was an agent because I would see her signs all the time, and she was in that class. So I remember kind of like start making friends with her. And I finally built up the courage and said, hey, would love to take you out to coffee. I just got in the business. Would you be interested? And she was very nice and said, yeah, absolutely. Like, would love to, go and do coffee with you. So go and do coffee. And then she tells, we had a good conversation and she says, hey, I actually have an opportunity, a sponsorship opportunity if you like to join me. And I have a Brokers Open coming up next week. So if you want to be one of the sponsors, one of the lender sponsor on it, you're more than welcome to come on. And I'm like, yes, absolutely, I'll be there. Well, right after that coffee meeting, I went to back to my office and I remember talking to my sales manager and I said, "What's a broker's open?" I didn't even know what a broker's open was before I signed up, for one to be a sponsor for it. And then she kind of explained to me what it was. And then so she said, ask her what she's needing you to sponsor. And then so I text her back and she said, just bring $100 gift card. And then so I told my manager that and she was like, whoa, $100, that's kind of a lot of money for a broker's open. And I said, you know what? I don't care. I get to spend more time with her. And then I'm also going to be able to meet new agents, which I do want to talk about, like what's also the right amount for giveaways and different things like that. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I see people doing is they just text the lender that they're currently working with and say, hey, can you sponsor this broker's open? And then, they're never specific. So that's one thing that I want to really get into today. Second, get to the broker's open. Literally, like less than 5 people showed up. And she had a title company sponsor food. They brought food from Ted's, and there was just like there was so much leftovers because they were expecting like a group of 20 people, 30 people. And then, but I didn't know any better, right? I was just like, well, that was kind of a success, right? Because I got to spend time with this agent and I kind of was like, I guess, this is what brokers opens are. Shortly after that, I kind of got, invited to more of those. And then I started seeing the same thing. It's like you would sponsor Brokers Open and then also the time that it takes because it's 2 hours that you're having to be there. And if you're an agent, if you're a lender and you're sponsoring a Brokers Open, you want to make sure you're there for the most of the time because that's kind of the value that you get for paying for a sponsorship, right? So, um, but it was the same thing over and over. It was like like the most people that I had seen come to a broker's open was like 10 people. And I was just like, man, there's got to be a better way to get more people to these things, right? And so the reason I shared those two stories with you is because that's why I've truly found like a little mixture of a couple different things that if you guys are doing this for your next Brokers Open, um, I promise you, you guys are going to have at least 15 to 20 people there. I promise you guys. Now, with that being said, I will be the first to call myself out and say that I have actually done some brokers opens with you guys that are on this call, and there hasn't been as many people that showed up. And why is that? Well, the reason on that is because if you want a big brokers open every time that you do a brokers open, you have to do these things that I'm going to share with you every single time. It's not just like a one time you have this awesome brokers open and for the rest of time every single brokers open that you do is going to be just maxed out with all these people. And again, to call myself out again, I will say it is easy to ride off of like a recent success that you guys that you've had, right? So for example, we just had, over 60 agents at this broker's open, and I've had probably 3 different people that reached out and said, hey, can you do this broker's open with me? And I've actually have not confirmed any of those 3 because I said, hey, I would like to, but we've got to make sure that it's a success as well. Because what I've done in the past, we have a successful event, and then people are like, oh my gosh, like, we should have Will at our next brokerage open. And then I just kind of ride off that success and then don't do any of the things that I'm about to show you guys. And then that's whenever I show up, and then there's only like a couple people. I don't know if Amanda's on the call. I know I sent her uh a link to sign up for this, but man, the last not the last one because we made up for it, but the previous brokers open to that, it was one of those where I had just had one where we had a good turnout, and then we show up and the sponsors are there. I mean, there's a huge charcuterie board on and this huge table. There's like a full bar. There's dinner. It was in the evening, and there. This is what I found really interesting is they had actually another house that was listed in the same like neighborhood, and we literally had three people show up, and those three people were out of five people that I personally invited. I only invited five people to that Brokers Open. And man, did that feel like a failure because I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is not what's supposed to happen. Like we're supposed to have people come see the house in order to be able to to have a like a successful event pretty much. Well, the next one, we had it over by Cherry Street, and I did literally just about everything, not everything. Everything that I'm sharing with you today is exactly what we did on the last one. But I'll tell you exactly what I did whenever I'm going through them. And we had about 35 people show up to that Brokers Open. And she'll tell you she was also stressed because she had the food show up late and all this stuff. And it was just stressful. But people stayed and mingled and just stayed around to look at the house and everything. And it was a successful event. And before getting started, I just want to remind you guys that my challenge is for you guys to take what I'm about to teach you and implement it into your next Brokers Open. But just make sure that you're not doing a Brokers Open just to do one, and you're implementing at least a couple of these in every single event that you do, or else it's going to be kind of like our business is, right? With buyers and sellers. It's like you have a good month and then the next month it's not so good. You have a really good month and the next one's not so good. So we don't want to do that. Okay. So, all right, let's get started here. Okay. So really quick. First thing is first is I want to talk about really quick. I know that we've had some changes in the industry. A lot of these changes, people think automatically like NAR settlement, and those changes. But I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't think that it's made as big of an impact as people made it seem to be, as before it became a thing. But with that being said, even I'm not just talking about the NAR changes that are going on. I'm talking about the changes that we're seeing in the market overall. Like we came from a very high. We didn't have to do Brokers Open back in 2020 and 2021 to now we're having to fight tooth and nail for every single deal that we get, right? So my biggest thing in showing you guys this is even if you don't have a Brokers Open at within the near future, my goal for you is to take this information I'm giving you today and for you to use it on your next listing presentation, right? Because you have two agents presenting. A lot of times you have more. And imagine if, each one is presenting their thing, but I guarantee you not a single agent is promoting to their seller, whether you give them a timeline or even if you want to do one right away. Because what I've found is that people do Brokers Open whenever they feel like they have to. They're like, man, the house has been sitting here for 3 months. Like, let's just throw this last Hail Mary and see if we get anything out of it. To where if you change that perspective and say, hey, you know what? If this listing goes out to 6 months, I'm willing to do two Brokers Open, but my first one is going to be in the first week. And that's going to be part of my selling strategy whenever I'm talking to sellers. So I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, out of everything that I've told you that I'm able to do for you, if I'm the lucky one to list your house, one of the things that I like to do for my sellers is throw a Brokers Open. Have you heard of this before? Most of them might say like, no, is it an open house? And you're like, it's an open house, but it's for agents. So what I'm going to do is I want to throw an event here at your house, and I want to invite agents, some of my colleagues that I work with, so they are able to see this home and they can go back and tell their buyers about it. Because a lot of the times when people are looking in the MLS, your address can just kind of, look like the rest of them. The purchase price can look like the rest of them. And then as people are seeing pictures of your house, it kind of all looks, people get overwhelmed, right? So I want to show buyers agents your home in order to get more exposure for it. Would that be okay with you? Like, is that something that you think that we would be able to, especially if they're still living in the house, right? I guarantee you nobody else is doing that. And I guarantee you that even if you don't end up doing it, that seller is going to think like, wow, I'm getting my money's worth by using this agent and listing my house with them because they're willing to go above and beyond of what I even thought was required of them. So even if you don't do a broker's open, guys, I would say use some of these strategies to be able to pitch on your next listing interview and tell them like this is what I would do. And here's the thing is even if somebody else has pitched this to you, I guarantee you that I'll have more people show up here because of this is what I like to do. Okay. To get started is building your team. This seems really basic and really easy. But again, guys, most of the time when agents are doing brokers opens, they are doing they're doing it because they have to. They're like, oh man, like this seller just keeps asking me, like, has anybody seen the house? Have we gotten any offers? Like all this stuff. And then, so what's the first thing they do? They reach out to, in my opinion, I think they reach out to their title company and their lender first, right? And then they say, hey, I'm doing a broker's open. You want to come do it with me? And then those people are going to say, yes, I'd love to help support you. You know, you're a big part of my business, yada, yada, yada. Right. Here's what I find out that people like, even as somebody's asking me, I always say, like, so what would you like for me to sponsor? And most agents just say, like, just do whatever, just whatever you want to sponsor, right? And I'm like, okay, like what else is everyone? First of all, if you say that, you might have, and this has happened at different brokers opens that I've been to before, you might have people bring 2 lunches. You might have people bring all gift cards and no food. So you want to make sure that either you're delegating things or you're letting somebody else delegate that for you and then just literally have them take over, which I will admit, I'm not just trying to pat myself on the back, but the ones that we have had a lot of people at, I just went ahead and just said, hey, I'll take care of this as long as you're good with whoever sponsors are there and whatever we do, right? Like this last one that we just did, I whenever I Libby saw an event that we had that wasn't even a broker's open. And then, I told her, hey, if you ever need help with anything like this, let me know. And she was like, well, if we can do a broker's open at this one, I think that it would be very valuable to my sellers. But I just don't know if anybody's going to show up. That's the first thing she told me. And I go, I mean, if you're down, like I'll take over and we'll get some people there. And she was just like, okay. And then I asked her too. I said, how many people would you need to see there in order for you to see that be a success? She said, man, I think if we can get 10 people out there, I think that that's going to be good for me to show my sellers that I did what I was supposed to do to get people to the house. Right. So I said, okay. We actually ended up having like 80 people RSVP'd and over 60 people show up. And this is why, is because I I went ahead and reached out to the people that were sponsoring and I said, "Hey, are you able to do this?" Right? So title company, she ended up bringing it wasn't even like it was food, but it was like hors d'oeuvres. It wasn't even like a full blown meal. She's ended up bringing drinks for people, so it was kind of like a happy hour style. And then she brought a couple of small giveaways. She didn't even have to bring those, but she brought those. Then I reached out to an inspector and said, "Hey, are you able to do a gift card?" And he said, "Yes, I can. How much do you want it for?" And I said, "What do you feel comfortable, donating?" Because that's also a thing that if you ask somebody like, what do you feel comfortable donating? Because sometimes you can ask somebody and you might be like way above what they're willing to give. Or a lot of times though, the amount of times that I hear like just bring a $25 gift card is a lot. And I guarantee you that a lot of these people can do a lot more than a $25 gift card. And sometimes what I'll even do is I will divide these. So like instead of us doing a $100 gift card giveaway, you can also divide these out to four $25 gift cards, right? We'll talk a little bit about like the giveaways and ways to structure that so you can have the best success. But you have all these different people that can essentially help you come sponsor. And a lot of the people, here's the thing, is that so many people think that sponsorship just means money. And that's incorrect because there's a lot of people in this business that are willing to give money in order to be able to just show up or have a seat at the table and hopefully get business from that. Well, here's the biggest difference that I've noticed with the Brokers Open that we do and any other Brokers Open out there is I always say, hey, Mr. Inspector, can you sponsor this? Cool. But here's the thing is, even if you can bring $1,000 gift card, right? Can you bring 5 of your agents that you're currently working with to the event? And then most of the time they're kind of thrown off because they're like, wait, what? And I literally, the inspector that sponsored this last Brokers Open, he said, man, I have never thought of inviting my own people to the event because it's like not my event. It's the listing agent's event. And I said, yeah, man, you got to think about it this way. One, the listing agent is the one that's wanting to get the word out there. And so the more people that show up for him or her, the better. But then you got to think about the lender, the inspector, the title company, the roofer. All these people are doing it for two things. One is to hopefully support the people the person that they're already working with, right? But then two, like I said earlier, you're paying to be able to have exposure to other agents, right? Who wouldn't want to be if your main bread and butter are agents, who wouldn't want to be in front of other agents that you're not working with right now? So why not bring 5 of the people that you're currently working with? And when I say 5, you have to invite at least 10 to 12 because as you guys know, a lot of people say yes to things and then just don't end up showing up, right? On this one that we did, man, I just kept saying, man, if we have 50 people RSVP, we might have 30, right? So going from over 80 to over 60 was actually a really good conversion right there. But again, you have an inspector bring in 5 agents that they're already working with and just say, hey, would love for you to come to this event, hype it up however you want to, whatever. And then you're also guaranteed to meet 5 agents that the title company's already working with that maybe you're not working with, and they're getting to meet your 5. So that way, that's part of the selling thing. Hey, Mr. Inspector, would you be willing to donate $100 gift card? And if they are like, well, I normally do $25 or whatever, right? Then you can say that's totally fine. We can try to find somebody else, but I will tell you this will be different because one of the thing is we don't only need your $100 gift card, but we also need you to bring 5 of your agents because we have 4 other sponsors or 3 other sponsors that are bringing 5 of their agents so you can meet them, or an inspector that's going to take your places can meet them. That way, that's guaranteed that you're going to be in front of at least 15 people, 15 agents that you're most likely not working with, right? At that point, that inspector is going to be like, well, I normally don't do $100 gift cards, but I also have never had anybody guarantee me that there's going to be people there, right? Not even a number, like people there. Because there's a lot. I wish I had the stats of like how many Brokers Opens are thrown out there and then people just don't end up showing up, by the way. But anyways, making sure that you're building a team, either that you're taking over it or that you're giving it to somebody, to making sure that we're not just getting sponsorships, but we're getting your team to invite other people. Okay. An extra thing, I didn't have a slide for it or anything, but is to make sure that you have a conversion rate, which why I believe we had so many people come out to the last one, is put them in a system. So we use Calendly. We put in as soon as somebody said I'll be there, we put them in Calendly, put their name, their email, their cell phone in order to give them reminders on this, because people need reminders because people forget. Not a lot of people use their check their calendar as much as they should. So that's going the extra mile, and nobody's doing that, by the way. I know some of you guys do it for events, but nobody's doing it for Brokers Opens. But if you want higher conversion on the people that say that they're coming to actually show up, use some of those there. Okay, next is going to be creating value at the event. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that the last one that we had, everybody that I invited, I said, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Realtor, I want to let you know we have this giveaway. We're gonna do this and that. But the biggest thing, just for showing up, you can put your name on a list for us to be able to for us to be able to shoot content for you. Like we'll tell you what to say, we'll film it, we'll edit it for you, and you're guaranteed at least 2 videos including the recap video there. So at that point you've planted in somebody's head, well, even if I just show up, I'm gonna get something out of it. As you guys see the examples on the right here, we had one where we had people that came pretty much just came for a free headshot there, and we partner up with a local photographer that also is gets most of her business from realtors, so she was happy to do this at no cost, because she was like, this is my sponsorship, this is what I'm doing. You guys can do different types. I mean, I've known as well too. I personally have never done a Botox party, but they're actually I guess not as expensive as I thought they were. Or here's the thing is, you don't even have to maybe even pay for that, because you can say, hey guys, we're gonna have Botox at the place that you literally pay the person as they're there. It's kind of like an event, right? So just think of different things of like, what's something that I can tell people like, hey, when you come here, you get a personalized, you know, uh, video, or what's something that that would entice somebody to come to the event just for this one thing. And I promise you that's going to go a long way. The other thing that we did at this last one, and we've done it a couple, I can only count on one hand how many times we've done it at different events, but the results that we get from it is they're really good, because people always want to like feel like, if I say, hey, will you come to this broker's open? And you're like, well, I don't know if I can make it, blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, hey, this broker's open is actually for breast cancer awareness, or the Little Lighthouse, or any charity of your choice. As long as they know what it is. And even if they don't know what it is, you can tell them what it is. I promise you, they're going to be like, oh man, I'm gonna feel crappy if I don't go, because I feel like I'm like not supporting that. It's kind of like whenever you go to any store and they tell you like, do you want to round up? And then you're kind of like, I'm gonna be a big jerk if I say no. So this actually puts the little guilt trip to them, but also it goes for a better cause, guys. So like imagine, and you can do this in many different ways. We've had different ones where we've had the sponsor say, hey, for every person that shows up, we're gonna give an X amount of number to the charity. And this last one that we did, we had just open donations for people to give. But what we said is, hey, for anybody that wants to donate, for every $10 that you donate to breast cancer awareness, we're going to give you an extra entry for the giveaways that we're giving away. And we were able to raise, I believe it was like close to $500 or something like that, which was actually not as much as we kind of had thought, but still $500 going to a good cause. And so think of what makes you get out of bed in the morning? Like what are you passionate about? And what charity can you associate that passion with, that it will make you be like, oh my gosh, I know this is a broker's open, but like I'm just excited to do this in order to be able to give some money to this charity there. I promise you guys, just adding this to it can really get people there. And you're doing it for a better cost there, but you have to be organized the way that you do it there. So next thing, we're going to go talk about exciting giveaways. Again, going back to the story that I told you at the beginning, when I said I was going to give $100 gift card, and my sales manager were like, whoa, that's a lot. Because like I said, most people like to do about $25 per gift card, right? So I want to mention two different things. One, you can always put in, like, you don't have to truly ask so much of your sponsors to have a big giveaway. And what I mean by that is, you can combine it. So meaning like, hey, if this person can give $50 or $100 and we have 4 sponsors, that's a $400 prize that we could potentially all go in all go in together and have one big giveaway. Because in this last one that we just did, the big giveaway was a 5-day timeshare to like so many different locations. It was like anywhere from Grand Lake to Las Vegas to Disney World to Hawaii, Alaska. Like there were so many different places they could have picked from. And of course, it was just the stay that was covered. It wasn't the travel or anything like that. But still, pretty big giveaway. Like we put this at a minimum at $2,000 value. So at that point, that's whenever people are like, well, this is a pretty big giveaway. Let me go and check it out and test out my luck, right? How many people, buy lottery tickets, but how many people win it? They just buy it in order to have the chance of like maybe in 1 in a billion chances or whatever, right? But if they don't go, they're going to feel like, man, maybe I could have won it. In this case, it was really easier to get people to donate more because they wanted to be ahead of the pack of having more entries. Because if you go in there and everybody just has one entry and you can pay $100 to get your name 10 more times in the entry, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? And then you have two different things. You have one, you paid $100 for a $2,000 value, or two, you lost and your $100 went to a really good cause. So it's a win-win. Now, the other thing I want to point out too is you don't have to be like big on social media. It does help a lot, but you don't have to be in order to just reach out to businesses because let me pause there and tell you, it was a $2,000 value, but do you guys know who sponsored it and then how much it cost that person? It was the sellers. The sellers are the ones that gave that away. And it actually didn't really cost them anything because that's kind of part of what they already own in the timeshare. So they're able to kind of give stuff away to family and friends or whatever. So it was their idea. They were like, hey, since we're going to have at least 10 people there, why don't we give away this to try to see if we can bring more people? And when that agent told me that, I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like, yeah, let's go ahead and add that to it. But here's the thing, is what I'm talking about is you can go to businesses, especially if you're active on social media, big on social media, but even if you're not, and you can say, hey, we're throwing this event and we're having a lot of agents come, and we are looking to partner up with people to do giveaways. Some giveaways are even given away for free, guys. And then two, if not, they're given away at a big discount, right? Because you are pretty much telling these people that if they're able to help you, you're going to really promote them there. A lot of these places, you're going to have better luck if one of their main targets is agents as well. Because again, like I'll give an example. I did a Brokers Open with a Solid Rock agent that the agent, it was another agent too, but he owned some type of business that did uh like gifts as well too for agents and stuff like that. So it was a carpet business. That's what it was. Unless I might be butchering that, but you kind of get the point. Like the person there was like, hey, um, realtors refer me business, so I'm more than willing to give this away, at no charge or whatever. So find places that are maybe willing to partner up with you, um, either with a big discount, because um, let's say $100 mahogany gift card or a $200 mahogany gift card. If you go in there and mahogany is like, well, we want to be in front of more agents, so it kind of helps us to help this person out. But hey, we're not going to give $200 away for free. But what we can do is we can give you this $200 gift card for $100. And then at that point, you say, great, let me see if my inspector, my lender, my title company can sponsor that. So we can make sure that, and then we can make sure that we market you as well too. And let me tell you this big secret, guys. If you ask one company, one business, and they say they don't do that, I promise you that's not like that doesn't mean that nobody does that, right? I would highly, if you're planning on doing something like that, my suggestion for you is for you guys to ask 3 to 5 businesses, right? Because there's some businesses that are not going to do that, but if you're trying, and then the worst that can happen is they say no, and the best that could happen is they end up helping you out with this. Okay. All right, guys. We're wrapping it up right here. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was social media. A lot of you guys, I'm sure, are raising your hand and say, we do that. We share it on Facebook and all this stuff every time that we go. But here's the thing is there's a difference between just sharing it or copying and pasting on a text, send it over, than actually being intentional, right? So like this is actually the first webinar I'm pretty sure I've done outside of a class. And the amount of people that we have on here was way more than I expected. And some of these was from people that I just posted a story last night and I said, hey, do you want an invite to this? And it was a poll and it was like, yes or no. And then the people that clicked yes, all I did was message them the link so they could register on there. Like you can't expect to make a post of like an event and then just be like, okay, everybody's gonna show up. Some people will show up from that, but what will happen is most people, if you actually pay one-on-one attention to them, they're more likely to be like, well, maybe I should go to that because Will personally reached out to me there, right? A lot of given Solid Rock another shout out here, but they're very, very good. Solid Rock and Chenoweth and Cohen in Owasso, they're very, very good as if one person from the office has the brokers open, everybody just like automatically shows up because that's just like who they are. But not every brokerage is the same. And but here's the thing is most people think that. They think like, oh, hey, I'm just gonna send this flyer to my office and everybody there will show up, right? And that rarely happens, guys. So don't assume. But guess what? If you send the flyer to your brokerage, and then let's say right before you go through every office because there's a lot of people in offices right now, right? Not really, but anybody that's in an office and you say, hey, Susie, headed to this broker's open would mean a lot to me if you came. I'll make sure I make to your next one. Are you able to come? Right? If you are doing like those individual touches, which you can do in social media by direct messaging people, I promise you is going to go a long way, guys. Okay. Uh, Last but not least, I think, yeah, and we'll have about 5 minutes for questions at the end if anybody has them, is a great way. Again, part of the thing that you are doing the brokers open is to please your seller, right? And to also get exposure for the house, right? If you see the like a house that just keeps kind of like you keep running into it, you're gonna be like, all right, let me go take a look at the pictures of this house or whatever, right? So one of the things that we've done only at a couple times, but we did at this last one and it worked great. And we said, hey, you get an entry for coming in, but if you make a post and tag all the sponsors, which one thing we should have done better that we didn't is we should have had something that had all the sponsors and maybe a QR code or maybe just their handle. So because some people were like, I can't find this sponsor, I can't find this other sponsor. But at that point, you say, hey, if you tag all the sponsors and take a video or a picture of the house and make a post or a story, which asking somebody to do a story is very minimal, guys, because it expires after 24 hours. You get an extra entry at no cost. And literally, I would say like 80% of the people did it that were there. One, you're getting extra exposure for the house and you're getting extra exposure for the sponsors. And I guarantee you, those sponsors are going to be like, next time you have one, make sure you're calling me because I have to come to another one of these events for sure. Okay. And then last but not least, which we didn't, I'll be honest, we didn't do a great of a job last time. The last one that we had when we had so many people there, but is make sure that you ask your title companies are really good for this. They'll bring these little feedback cards. Make sure you can even say we didn't do this there again, but you can say if you fill out a feedback on the property, you get an extra entry, right? Just incentivize people to do stuff. Why? Because after the broker's open's done, you can say, hey, we had X amount of people come. We had X amount of people share it on social media. And also I'm sure you guys have been like, hey, I need to tell the seller that we need to cut the price down, like I've been telling them from the beginning, but they won't listen to me. Or hey, I've been telling the seller to fix that bathroom or fix the whatever, right? Like those little things that you're like, man, if we could change this, if we could paint this, this would feel like a completely different house, but they just don't want to do it. They're like, I just want to sell it like it is right now, right? When there's a difference between you telling them that and nagging them about it, as opposed to being like, hey, remember how I told you that to paint that bathroom? 30 other people said the same thing too. Or like, remember I've been telling you that we should have never listed this home at what we listed it at? Hey, everybody here is not even $30,000 to our purchase price, right? Again, I'm just exaggerating, making examples here, but guys, these will be lifesavers for you as far as being like, man, I'm so glad we did this because now I can actually, even if nobody in there buys that property, you're able to be like, position yourself to where now you're able to sell that property because it's maybe listed correctly at the correct price or is uh it's kind of tweaked up a little bit with some repairs and stuff, guys. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys' time. I know we have a couple of minutes. There's a Q&A, a Q&A box there that if anybody has any questions, now's the time to put him in there. But I will say after this call, you guys are going to get an email for just thank you for coming and everything. And there's a link. You're gonna get like I think two of them. But if anybody is about to have a broker's open and it's like you've been that person where you're like, man, I've never had many people show up. Feel free to schedule a 30-minute Zoom call with me where we can do one-on-one and we can essentially maybe even help you on that there. So what time is the best time of the day to hold a broker's open? That's a really good question. So normally is like around lunchtime. You're going to be like from 11 to 1. Brokers open are anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. Really, I don't do more than 3 hours unless it's in the evening time. And so if it's between 11 and 1, why is that the perfect time? Is because you can tell people that they can come for a free lunch. Here's another thing though, is make sure that if you're doing it during lunch, that you actually have lunch. Again, I'll call myself out. I don't know. Let me see who is all here. Uh, okay, Karen's not on here. She said she might jump on. I don't know if she jumped on earlier, but had one with her and it was way out there in Coweta. And then we ended up having like maybe 5, 6 people show up. Again, one that I will call myself out that all this stuff, like I didn't do any of it. I'm just like, okay, I'm sponsoring, I'm just gonna show up, right? Which I'm so glad. If anything, this is helping me more because I'm like, I never not want to have a good brokers open again. Anyways, it was during lunchtime and we didn't have any lunch. So it's like, we got to make sure that like we're making it to where it's appealing to people, right? And especially if you're the second answer to that is going to be not just a time but on a date is when you guys have sales meeting at your office and you know it's around that 11 o'clock or whatever, then you can say, hey, guys, if anybody wants lunch, if they don't serve lunch there, say, come to my broker's open, and then you can get a lot of those people to go over there. But any other questions? I don't see any other questions, but truly appreciate you guys for jumping on and giving me 45 minutes of your time. Again, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out. Last but not least, if you guys want the slides, send me a direct message on Instagram and say slides, and I'll send you a link to this. But hope you guys had a good lunch. If you guys were eating while you were watching this, and if you weren't, hope that you have a good lunch since you're about to go to it. And actually, there's one more question here. Oh, there you go. Of course, any way that I can add value to you guys, it's my pleasure. So everybody have a great day.